122 laps, including the final 78, in posting his 20th career victory, but first since March 6, 2011, at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. His crew chief, Jimmy Fennig, told Claire B. Lang on the Sirius XM NASCAR radio post-race show he was happy to help Edwards get back to victory lane.
That's good for Carl to be back in victory lane. He deserves to be back here, and everybody worked real hard at Daytona, and we didn't get nothing out of Daytona, so this makes a big difference.
Edwards started 15th, and he picks up the win. Jimmy Johnson held on to finish second after his Daytona 500 victory. Denny Hamlin was third, Brad Keselowski fourth, and Dale Earnhardt Jr. rounded out the top five. Clint Bowyer, Matt Kenseth, Tony Stewart, Jeff Gordon, and Jeff Burton completed the top 10. Jimmy Johnson on top of the point standings now after 2 races by 8 over Earnhardt Jr. and Brad Keselowski as the Sprint Cup Series heads to Las Vegas Motor Speedway this Sunday afternoon. MLB Network Radio's tour of spring training continues today with the Chicago Cubs. Join Jim Bowden and Casey Stern at 1 p.m. Eastern as they talk with GM Jed Hoyer, manager Dale Swaim, and more on Sirius 209 XM 89. Don't miss a minute of the entire tour. You can hear the show with your favorite team whenever you want on Sirius XM on demand. That's the Morning Drive news for Monday, March 4th, 2013. I'm Pete Pistone.
Doing all right?
Doing good.
The Morning Drive with Mike Bagley and Pete Pistone.
What would make your experience better? Nothing that I'm qualified for.
Finished better than 5th, maybe won the race. Just didn't get the brakes on pit road. We kind of got boxed in and picked on beating the 99 off pit road there. I think we could have beat him off pit road, but somebody was pulling in their stall in front of us and just had to lift to give the spot to the 99. But that was the race in my opinion, and we almost had it won right there. But real good race car, tough in traffic, tough to get 2 people, but we made our car good enough to actually make some passes and gain on a few guys.
29 minutes before the top of the hour. That's Dale Earnhardt Jr. Top 5 finish yesterday in the Subway Fresh Fit 500. His crew chief is Steve Letarte. You can find him on Twitter at Steve Letarte, online at LetarteTMD3413, and here every Monday morning, 8:30 p.m. Eastern to 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. And he's with us right now. Stevie, top of the morning to you. Sounds like you guys had a hard-earned and a hard-fought 5th-place finish yesterday.
Yeah, it really was, Mike. This is Phoenix has never been. I shouldn't say never. Phoenix recently has not been a very good track for us as a race team. Dale's had some success here early in his career. We've had success here with Jeff years past, but the last couple of years, especially since they've repaved it, reconfigured it, we've really struggled. So to come out here and run in the top 5, and I agree with Dale and his quote, I think we had a chance to win the race. So that makes racing, makes racing really fun when you have a chance to win.
Before we get to talk about that pit stall situation, from when you rolled off the hauler on Friday, Steve, to when you got to the end of the race yesterday, kind of walk us through the weekend. How much change did you have to make? How did the racetrack change? How did that car handle at that still relatively new Phoenix International Raceway layout?
Well, I think every time we come here, the place has a little more grip. It's a little more consistent. Goodyear changed the tire again. I think it was a great selection. I think moving forward we'll be able to even change the tire again and get more grip. But they are kind of in the same box we are, wondering how quick the track is going to age. So, but for the 88 National Guard, this track is an uphill battle, and we unloaded Friday. It was no different. We were okay in race trim. It seemed like we found a little bit of consistency, but we still lacked the speed. We still qualified relatively poorly in the 20s. It's just this place is hard. When you don't have confidence and you don't have a notebook to lean back on, it's very hard. And so we leaned hard on our teammates and tried to get a little bit better. And then on Saturday, I think we finally found some speed in our own car Saturday afternoon. We never thought it would be a top 5 or a winning car, but we thought we could run better. And then we changed some more stuff Saturday night, and I think that really made some speed in our car for Sunday.
Now let's go back to the tire situation. We saw a lot of teams suffer right front tire blowouts, and Goodyear said that they didn't think it was the tire, that maybe it was the camber, the setup of those race cars. Did you have any of those issues? And do you think that the setups of those teams, what they were using, was the culprit for those problems?
Well, we didn't see any issues, but, it's hard. It's hard to really speculate. A lot of teams didn't have issues. Some did. I've been on both sides of that fence. We've been allowed before where the 88 hurt 2 right front tires and no one else did, yet we were set up the same as our teammates. So does that mean, what could have hurt it? you know, it's hard to say. You never really know. You know, Goodyear's in a box, you know, as a race team and as a sport, and the fans especially, you know, we're leaning on Goodyear to bring softer tires that provide a little more wear. We hear it every day on your radio show. We want, you know, better racing, more tire fall off. We want them to have to pit. Well, that is the risk associated with it. And, you know, it's disappointing for those teams, but I've been there. And I am a fan of tires that, as a crew chief, you have to manage. You just can't put any setup in. You have to understand what the tire is. And you know, knock on wood, that might bite me at some point this year. We might be the guy that hurt the tire. But that still doesn't mean that's not the tire you should race. You know, I think it provides better racing. When you get the tires that are so hard you can't hurt them, man, the racing gets really, really single file, and it becomes really hard to set a car up. So, you know, you never know. No one's ever really going to know. But, you know, Goodyear is very good at their job. Rick Campbell and the guys, they work really hard on giving us a good tire, and I'll just have to hear what they say. And I'm sure I'll go talk to them in Vegas and get a little more information for coming back here.
All right, now let's go to the what turned out to be the pit stop that Dale Jr. said maybe cost you guys the race. Walk us through what happened when you got kind of boxed in down there.
Well, really, Pete, it was cat and mouse all day long with the crew chiefs. We all knew that tires weren't a lot on speed, and we had to manage the fuel situation. So this pit stop before that one, you know, we were short on gas all day long to gain positions on pit road, and I think that's what paid off. That's what got us towards the front. And Jimmy Fenning knew very well that we needed to take more gas than he did, and I knew he had to take less gas than us on the last pit stop. So when we came and we pitted, our theory was to take as much gas as we could until the 99 was leaving next to us, and hope that was enough. We're then about 0.2 of a gallon. And we did, and we dropped the jack, and it was perfect. We knew we had the inside line around 3 and 4 on pit road. We knew we could race it and probably beat him with the shorter radius around the corner. But what we didn't figure was there were still some cars coming in. And the 13, not really doing anything wrong. I mean, he was just coming into his pit stop still while we were leaving. That's what happens when you have short pit stops. And, you know, instead of pulling off completely, he kind of stayed in the second lane until he pitted, and we had to check up because of it. And that kind of added up into the 99 beating us off pit road. And that was, I agree with Dale, that was basically the race. The guy that was off pit road right there, he had the best chance to win it, and unfortunately it wasn't us.
Is there a lot of that gamesmanship that goes on that we don't see as part of the broadcast crew or even the fans? That doesn't they don't see that in the grandstand when you're not necessarily, well, I guess you're trying to outsmart the other crew chiefs, but you're also trying to exercise a little gamesmanship to get the advantage on pit road.
Oh, there's a whole race that isn't broadcasted. I really believe that. It's hard. It's unfortunate. You know, I think the fans would really love it. I don't have a good suggestion on how to do it, how to bring it home into the living room. If I did, I would be the first guy up in the NASCAR truck bringing it up, because I think the TV affiliates and radio affiliates would be happy to do it. It's a very hard thing to capture. But even like the Daytona 500, the last pit stop of the Daytona 500 was a whole fuel strategy. There was so many mind games being played on the scanner between crew chiefs and talking to your driver because you know other crew chiefs are listening. I mean, there's so much of that goes on. It's really unreal. And, you know, at Daytona, probably half the stuff I told Dale was for Dale, and the other half was for other crew chiefs on pit road to listen to.
But
and
does Dale know, though? Does Dale know what some things you're telling him, and then you try to talk in code amongst the other stuff?
It's not in code. He understands the role of the race, and when you talk about crew chief communication, that's exactly what you mean. Is he knows exactly what the game plan is as I'm communicating it to him. And like for instance at Daytona, you don't want to pit alone. So I'll be very early on the radio saying we're going to pit in 5 and 5. Hey Dale, look for some hands, see what you have, and he'll, you know, and those drivers know what's going on, and that's how you make sure you don't pit alone. And then you come to a Phoenix race, and everyone's very, very quiet up to the last pit stop. You don't hear any suggestions on how many tires. Nobody's asking, because we all know. We're looking up and down pit road at the crew chiefs. There's a whole game being played on what that last pit stop's going to be. And, I mean, it was a fun, exciting race to call. It was probably one of the most fun races to call I've had lately, because it was just a blast. Everybody knew what we had, and it was really just kind of a mano-a-mano. You kind of stepped up, and how, Dutchy, were you going to be on fuel, and what kind of risks were you willing to take to win the race?
What about the competition on track? Denny Hamlin afterwards saying even though he finished third, it was nearly impossible to pass on the racetrack. I heard Dale Jr. afterwards say you guys passed some cars on the racetrack. What was kind of your perspective of what you saw actually in front of you on the track, Steve?
Well, you know, we got behind early in the race and improved our car, and we drove from 32nd to about 16th before we hit our pit road strategy. So, you know, I think passing was available. as much as Phoenix has ever lended it to it. This is a hard track to pass at. When you put a kink in the backstretch, it's very hard. That limits you to one straightaway to set up passes. If the car, the track itself is extremely one groove. It's, it's just, there's nothing wrong with it. That's just the track we run on. And, it reminds me a lot of Indy. When you take banking out, it becomes very hard to pass sometimes. And this place is one of those places between the new pavement and the track design and whatever else might add in. It's a very hard place to pass, but people can pass. We passed a lot of cars. But it was the same for everyone, and we knew that coming here. That's not a product of the car or the tire. If anybody's watched the last handful of Phoenix races, you knew how the race was going to be, and you needed to call it. And I think Darian Grubb called a great race. That's why Denny finished where he did. So, I think it's good. I think I've said this time and time again, and I stand behind it. We really can't grade the new car until at least after about the 600. I think it'd be unfair and jumping to conclusions to give it any sort of grade before that. Race teams are going to need time to work with it. NASCAR is going to need time to observe the shows and talk to the drivers. And, to expect everyone to hit it perfect out of the box, I think is a little unrealistic, but I think they hit it really, really close. And it might be perfect, but I don't think we'll really be able to know until probably after the 600.
But a lot of fans are expecting that this new car will cure any previous ills of the Generation 5 car. And because they didn't see that yesterday, they say, well, the Gen 6 car, well, it's starting out like the Gen 5 car, which it may be. Do you have any advice for these fans that are expecting that instant gratification?
Well, I think they have to understand what they want. And I hear all the time about, oh, man, we need races like we had 10 years ago. Well, I was around 10 years ago, and I remember winning Dover with Jeff Gordon by like 22 seconds. So, yes. I think the races are as close as they've ever been. I don't know. It's a balance. I don't have the right answer. I'm glad I'm not in NASCAR's shoes who's responsible for that. I'm only responsible for one race team within it. And, unfortunately for us, we've had a good start. But I think this race car looks spectacular. I think the manufacturers are behind it. I think our crowds at the first two races were great. I hope they continue. And I think, the drivers are working very hard to put on a good show. I saw a lot of attempted passes yesterday, a lot of side-by-side when they could get there. But then after 15 and 20 laps on the tires, it was very hard to get side-by-side. I don't think anyone was riding. It was hard to do. But it can be done. We did it. Someone won the race. The 99 didn't start on the pole, so he had to pass somebody. And it was, I enjoyed the length of the race. I think these Phoenix races, these Loudon races, these 300-lap races, these sub-3-hour races package really good. There are a lot of excitement to call, and I think that lends itself to a pretty fun race.
Talking with Steve Letarte, Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s crew chief in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series. Stevie, let's look forward to the Cobalt Tools 400 race weekend at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. By the time you guys go on the racetrack Sunday, you'll have had 9 hours and 45 minutes of testing and practice time. Do you think that's enough time for you guys out there? Seems like it's an eternity for you guys out on the racetrack before you go green.
Oh, man, we'll take 9:45, and we'll still wish we had that last 15 minutes. I mean, that's just how it works, is you're going to work really hard. I think that test day is going to be extremely important. We've tested this car all winter, but it's just hard to test when it's 30 degrees at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Everything works. You're running lap times down around, pole speed every lap. That's not testing. That's not realistic to any sort of track conditions we're going to have. It's very hard to learn anything. So to go to Las Vegas with everybody there, with everybody trying to run as fast as they can, it's going to be great. There's going to be a lot to learn. People are going to be going through completely different programs. Who's doing what? I'm excited. I'm excited to get there and get it underway and get another car on track.
From Twitter, listener wants us to ask you, did you use a different or new chassis in Phoenix, and what's the chassis situation for Vegas this weekend, Steve?
No, we used the chassis we ran last year at Phoenix. Twitter's funny because when we weren't very good in qualifying and in practice, everybody wanted to know on Twitter. In today's society, everybody gets to read the press releases and that we had an older car, and everyone's really upset. They were upset that they had an older car, and I kind of laughed. The chassis are just the chassis number. It's a car we had last year. We revamped it. Pretty dramatically, really. I think the only thing that's staying on it is the chassis number. And it's the same way going to Las Vegas. We have a couple cars. We're going to test a different one, then we'll race. And, they're cars from last year, the end of last year. We built a lot of new cars last year towards the second half of the year. And to build a new one this year, it would be the same specs. So we're really trying not to bombard the company with work. We already have to rebody the cars, and there's enough work to improve the cars that the chassis are all pretty solid. So, we had 3 new ones for the Daytona 500 because we crashed a lot of our Speedway cars last year. But as far as the intermediate and the short track stuff goes, we'll have some older cars to start the year. Our first new chassis will probably be Martinsville.
The testing time you get Thursday, obviously 6.5 hours worth. Is that testing plan you have lined up for Thursday different from the testing plans you had in the preseason? Are you evolving your testing patterns now for this new race car, now that we have 2 races under our belts?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. When you went to Charlotte, our test plan was covering the entire globe. You would touch everything on the car. A lot of it was even durability. You would make sure the axles would work, and this would work, and that would work. Now when you go to Las Vegas, for the first couple hours, we might be testing a little more generic, some concepts, some ideas, some different ways to run things. But by the time you get after lunch, you're going to be testing for Las Vegas. It's going to be like a practice more than a test. You're going to be trying to find the speed out of the car. It's really the best opportunity you have for multiple sets of tires. You might be testing some air pressure. There's going to be a lot of stuff on the list for that Thursday. So tempo will be up. It won't be like a preseason test. That will be more like a 6.5-hour practice, not a test. And tempo will be up. Laps will be run. It'll be way more intense than what we did in December and January.
So you're still in Phoenix. You're going to go straight to Vegas. Is that what you did with the race team, too? Did you have another truck out there and just went to Vegas, or is a separate truck coming out to meet you guys in Vegas?
Well, so we have a truck coming out with the 40 and the 88 cars on it. We have a hauler that will haul 4 cars, and it left Charlotte a couple days ago, and it got to Phoenix late last night. So we're stayed at Phoenix for the evening. We'll work today in the garage area. We'll get the haulers unloaded. We'll take the stuff we learned this weekend, apply it to our Vegas cars, tweak on them a little bit, put them in the truck this afternoon, and then travel over to Las Vegas. We can work in Vegas, Wednesday and Thursday, and then we'll check into the track Tuesday and Wednesday. We'll check into the track on Thursday, and the weekend will be back underway. So, it's a West Coast swing. It's unfortunate. I hate to be away from our families that much time, but it's just between the economics of it and flying planes back and forth and really the schedule with the truck drivers, we found this is the best way for us to do it.
All the best to you. Congrats on the top 5 finish, and all the best in Vegas this weekend.
All right, guys. Thanks.
See you, Steve.
Steve Letarte. At Steve Letarte on Twitter, LetarteTMD3413. Follow him, check in on him as he and the rest of the 88 crew get ready to do battle in the Cobalt Tools 400 after a 5th place finish in the Subway Fresh Fit 500.
Not bad. 2nd and a 5th for Dale Jr. to start the year, and they were frustrated with the 5th. That shows you how far that race team has come in a couple of years' time, Bagman.
Coming up, we're checking the calendar. Slugger Lab.